But then is that contrast fair? Albanese, nice guy, Scott Morrison, a sneering, arrogant man. Now, I barely know Morrison. He's kept me at a bit of a distance. But I guess you don't either. And all you probably know about Morrison is this nasty image of him that's being pushed really aggressively by a media that seems to be actually trying to perpetuate a caricature. It's not quite Morrison at all. I've never seen such a campaign of personal destruction, by the way, and maybe against Tony Abbott. The left really does know how to hate. But the one against Morrison is at least as savage. Now, among the attacks, of course, the ABC have said plenty already about them, their character attacks on Morrison, with even the national broadcaster's chief political editor now openly sneering at a Prime Minister she's accused of ideological bastardry. She's just dripping hate.
Is this really the centrepiece of the campaign launch today by the government?
There could be another surprise we don't know.
Maybe they're going to, announce we're going to nuke somebody or something. I mean, Lord knows.
Well, if sneering is what should be out of fashion, get her off the ABC. But it's not just the ABC. Look, unlike the ABC, Channel 9 has no obligation to be impartial. Taxpayers don't fund it, not like the ABC. Yet I thought that the ways that Nine's Tracy Grimshaw last night interviewed Scott Morrison crossed the line by showing such look-at-me contempt and open mockery, even some side-eye and face-pulling.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out where you've been a bulldozer, because you've said you've been a bulldozer. I'm trying to figure out where you think you've been a bulldozer, because so far I've given you 3 examples and you said you weren't.
No, I didn't say that at all. What I said was that's how I handle those situations. See, as Prime Minister, you need to be able to have strength. You must have strength. I mean, the situations we're dealing with, whether it's the Chinese government and their coercion of our economic interests and their push into our region, you've got to have a strong Prime Minister.
Joining me to talk about that and another clip I'll show of that so-called interview is our mega media panel. Sophie Elsworth, media writer of The Australian, and Jack Houghton, Sky News digital editor and host of the media show here on Sky News every Friday at 8 p.m. Sophie, what did you make of that particular behaviour that we've just seen?
So, Andrew, I thought it was really interesting with Tracy Grimshaw making some of those faces during that interview, and I don't think that comes across well for the viewers watching at home. As much as you're, conducting the interview and you may be frustrated with the politician in front of you, it's not a good idea to be doing that. And I thought that let her down during the interview. But I will say, Andrew, 600,000 odd people did watch this interview according to the ratings out today. And more than however many tuned into the 7:30 report, which was about 500,000. I think interviews on channels like Channel 9, Current Affair, they connect with a different audience. They're probably not people watching political interviews day in, day out. Typically, I like Tracy's type of interview, but I thought that was a thing that let her down during this.
Jack?
Yeah, I think Sophie makes some really great points, and I think a lot of people tuned in, so there's that. It worked from that entertainment appeal point of view, but then lets herself down from a credibility point of view. What I was surprised about, though, is, yes, I take it the Twitter reaction was mixed, but you had these prominent ABC personalities like Patricia Karvelas. These are people that have been barracking for an ABC debate, and they're tweeting out what a marvellous interview and praising her. Now, I get that from the private sector, and I get if Nine wants to make it all about entertainment and they want to do the Grace Tame side eye and everything and make it a bit provocative. That's their right. I'm a big believer in the private sector to be able to do that. But for the ABC, of all people, to celebrate that, I think that is exactly why the coalition does not want to do a debate with the ABC.
Then there was Tracy Grimshaw misrepresenting Scott Morrison and hitting him with a list of what she thought, well, his supposed failures. Here she is.
Prime Minister, you said at your launch on Sunday, I saved the country. You don't hold a hose. You weren't in your tinny plucking people off rooftops. You weren't doing 16-hour days in PPE on COVID wards. You didn't get enough vaccines soon enough. You didn't get enough rats so that we could finally have a holiday interstate for Christmas, and China has set up base in the Solomons. Do you think maybe you slightly over-egged part about I Saved the Country?
Your take on that, Sophie?
Well, Scott Morrison's response to that, Andrew, was, gee, Tracy, you've got a long list here. And I thought he didn't handle responding to that very well. I think he should have fought back more. I mean, he's not going to be wearing PPE for 16 hours a day. He's trying to run the country. He's trying to keep us safe and keep us financially stable as well. So I thought the question, I mean, she's well within her rights to ask that. It was pretty, it was really trying to prod him there. But the Prime Minister, I thought, could have handled that a lot better. And I think he'll be regretting that grab that's run everywhere, Andrew, that said, gee, you've got this long list here.
Yeah, but Jack, I thought she desperately misrepresented what he said what he meant when he said, we've saved Australia. He was talking about JobKeeper, keeping people in work. He wasn't suggesting that it was out there fighting fires or anything like that. What did you make of that?
Yeah, exactly. It almost showed a lack of understanding of the complexities of the issue. But I think Sophie's right. What Scott Morrison has been lacking in this election campaign and what he needs to bring to interviews is a bit more fire. The attacks on him, the reasonable Australian, the average person watching it, thinks that these attacks are completely unreasonable. And you only have to juxtapose that with some of the criticisms of, say, Tony Abbott. When he is out there actually physically fighting the fires, he gets mocked by the same people that complain that Scott Morrison isn't physically out there. We all know that is not the role of the Prime Minister. The role is a much more top level. I mean, how childish and petulant is it to suggest that Scott Morrison isn't doing his job unless he's physically hosing out fires? Like, really? Is that's your journalistic take?
People from rooftops?
Yeah, I mean...
Well, I look forward to an Albanese government. Apparently, Albanese will be flying a helicopter right over your roof if you're ever in need of immediate rescue. Apparently, that's the new standard. This all struck me, though, as an example of the new sort of celebrity journalism, sort of low-rent celebrity journalism, where the real star of the interview is the journalist trying to take a scalp and, make some knockout wow points. Nine sold it like this. Tracy Grimshaw goes head-to-head with Scott Morrison. The Daily Mail, Tracy Grimshaw lists all of Scott Morrison's gaffe during a heated interview. And news.com.au, Tracy Grimshaw grills Scott Morrison in a brutal current affair interview. But look, maybe this sort of ding-dong, the hero journalist coming to smack a Prime Minister is maybe what the audience of Current Affairs wants, when the very next story after that interview was about a dog that can drive a ute. I think you mentioned something about this, Tracy, Sophie.
Yeah, Andrew, I think it just made a bit of a farce of the whole thing. But look, the problem we have in the media landscape in Australia is a large portion of journalists are left-leaning. Now, you can see that in their social media. So we've really got a heavy contingency of the media really barracking here, Andrew. They've got a dog in this race and they want Albo there on Saturday night with his hands in the air celebrating. And you can see that across even the national broadcaster. I will be very interested to see how they're going over at the ABC on Saturday night if the coalition can win victory here. And I think that is a problem with the media landscape. It's too left-leaning. And so we're seeing so many people really go for the throat of Scott Morrison, and it's showing in the media bias throughout so many different outlets, including the national broadcaster.
Well, given that the ABC radio's coverage of election night will be Virginia Trioli and Ralph Epstein, I can predict there'll be tears before bedtime if the coalition does win. But Jack, I mentioned in the editorial that there was something about Anthony Albanese's performance at the National Press Club today that I thought showed a sort of gritty, backroom bar sort of integrity. It's going to be small potatoes, but, he's going to be honest. He's going to count every paperclip twice kind of integrity. I'm not sure the big picture's going to be there. The government will probably fall around his ears. But what did you make of his address today?
I definitely see what you're saying by that. but I'm a big fan of details. And what really lacked there were the details. I saw emotion. I saw somebody who probably will do a fine job running the country. And I think that's the message he wants to get across, that he's a nice guy, he cares about people. But he was pressed a couple of times by journalists, particularly on, on what are you actually going to do for people if your policies are so close to the coalition. And he really didn't have a way of answering that. And I think he's made the mistake here of he's upsetting both sides. His targets are too small for a traditional Labor base, but then Conservatives fear he's going to go so far the other way. And I think the way of dispelling some of that, dispelling some of the rumours and uncertainty about what you're actually going to do if you govern, is providing details. He had an opportunity to do that when he was asked about lockdowns. He did not rule out bringing back lockdowns or not fighting against lockdowns against states. And I think that was a big missed opportunity. I think we're past that as a country.
It's going to have another review, Jack. You're too harsh. It's going to have another review. It's going to have another panel. It's going to have another conference. Someone will tell him what to do, but he will have integrity. Sophie, I'm out of time, but what did you make of the speech in a nutshell?
I think we are going to have the most left-leaning Prime Minister we've seen in decades if he gets in. And I think Anthony Albanese really lacks on detail, and he'll continue to be caught out every time he steps in front of that microphone until Saturday, Andrew.
Sophie Elsworth, Jack Houghton, thank you both for your time.